This is a theory of everything, a theory which shows that there is order and meaning in the universe and flirts with the possibility that there is a deeper underlying purpose to everything we see. Being a theory of everything, it has a great power. The power to console science from religion, quantum and classical physics, and help people to become self-actualized, that is, the best they can possibly be, and much more. It is called Sourrys theory after its creator George Sourrys, and this is a brief overview. The great formula is, an element interacts in a system of elements and creates a greater connected element. First, let's have a look at the creation of the human body. A subatomic particle interacts in a system of subatomic particles and creates a greater element, an atom. An atom interacts in a system of atoms and becomes a greater element, a chemical element. The chemical element interacts in a system and at a greater level form molecules. The molecules are part of a system and at a greater level produce macromolecules. A system of macromolecules form the cell organelle, and through a system the cell organelles become cells, such as those in our body. These cells in our body are in a system of their own, and at a greater level form systems such as tissues, organs, and ultimately an organism, such as our complete human body. We could also arbitrarily extend this to greater levels. We as individual humans are also part of systems which create the planet Earth. Planet Earth is part of a system which creates the solar system, and so on. All of this is created through a simple formula. An element interacts in a system of elements and creates a greater connected element. So what does this formula mean? For one, it points to elements having a greater elemental purpose, the purpose of creating the greater levels. For example, the cells in our body share similar desires to us as humans. They have instinctual desires, the desires to live, to consume, to fight off rival cells that invade their territory, to bond with other cells, to reproduce. In the world of the cells, each cells go about their struggles in a way that may seem to them, or to a participant, viewing purely the interactions between them as lacking a greater meaning. However, perhaps unknown to the cells in our body, they also have a greater purpose. While they are going about their life, they are creating our hands, our arms, and they are protecting us from harmful infections. Their purpose is not just to live, fight, bond, and reproduce for themselves, as while they fulfill these instinctual desires, they are fulfilling another purpose. The purpose to create order in the form of a greater element, for example, our human tissue, and to help us to survive. This greater elemental purpose is most probably hidden from an element unless their perspective is switched to perceive the greater levels. And thus, as often this perspective is not part of the element's perception, they may not perceive this greater purpose they are creating. And it's not always necessary for them to perceive this order due to the concept proposed by this theory, known as the evolutionary design parameters. Evolutionary design parameters are based on the following logic. An element is designed to play a role at a particular level or levels only. Therefore, each element has been given instincts, adaptations, perceptions, and capabilities that guide them to play their role, but not necessarily to see certain levels of the overall interaction. This is with good reason, as having this overall perception is not necessary and may actually hinder their ability to fulfill their role. For example, our perception as a human being is designed in such a way to help us. It would not be necessary for us to see the level of the atoms or microscopic cells in normal everyday life. In fact, having this perception may actually hinder our daily functioning, and thus this inability in perception is an advantage. Therefore, like the levels preceding us, if we as humans have a greater elemental purpose, it is possible that we cannot perceive this due to evolutionary design. And furthermore, we may not perceive the extent of the greater elemental purposes until we perceive at a much greater level, possibly the entirety. What else does this formula mean? Well, every element in existence is thought to be connected with everything else at one or more levels. This is true regardless of the different building blocks of each element. Due to this interconnection, the elements in a system can interact, but just as elements in a system can interact, so too can there be interactions between systems and between levels. For example, the cells in our body can communicate with us on our level and inform us when we're doing something good or harmful to them. One such example is when we touch a hot stove with our hand. A group of cells in our hand, in this case a nerve ending, instantly signal us through our nervous system to remove our hand from this hot source. Just as our cells communicate with us, this communication effect works in all directions. We can also communicate with and affect the cells in our body. In fact, everything we do affects cells in our body, even a thought. Likewise, we ultimately affect our atoms, elements in our system, the planet, and so on in every sense, even by simply existing. This power of interaction is nothing short of amazing, and is due to the interconnection of the systems and levels. We rely on smaller and greater interconnected systems for our own survival and perhaps to fulfill our greater elemental purpose. They also rely on us, thus everything affects one another. This interaction and ability for the interaction means every individual element is highly significant and has the power to affect all in such a way that its effect can possibly stretch throughout not only space but also through time. Theoretically, it is possible that there is one true all-encompassing system or element which could have the ultimate greater purpose of all the systems, from the smallest, the alpha level, to the biggest, the omega level. This perceptive viewing of this all-encompassing system, although hypothetical, in Sourrys' theory is called the God level. Now that it's been explained how this theory works, the theory in its more universal form, one that is not only true for matter, but also non-physical constructs, can be explained, where we take away the more strict definitions of an element and now apply it to being everything in existence. The theory is, an element interacts in a system of elements and creates. Here are some examples. Imagine if nothing in the universe moved. If the earth did not spin and there was not a day approximately every 24 hours, if there was no morning or night, if nothing inside our world moved at all, if a clock's hands did not move, if even yourself were completely still with no thoughts at all, how would you perceive time? The answer is that you could not. Time is created by the formula of Sourrys' theory. An element interacts in a system of elements and creates. In this case, the formula creates time. Physical laws such as gravity are created through the interaction between the elements, and without such interactions, these phenomena would also not exist. In fact, the interaction between the elements create almost everything in existence, from most of the elements to non-matter things, for example, processes such as evolution and ideologies such as economics. Let's now have a quick look at how Sourrys' theory affects some of the many disciplines. Philosophy. For thousands of years, philosophers have discussed the basic concept of good. According to Sourrys' theory, what is best for an individual element may not necessarily be what is best for the systems, levels, now and in the future. Under Sourrys' theory, the ultimate good is what is best for the overall greater system. When it comes to all of the levels and systems, the alpha to the omega, the God level. Science. Sourrys' theory has a major impact on the current theory of evolution. Science currently views evolutionary changes as being random genetic mutations. Sourrys' theory points to the possibility that there is no such thing as pure chaos randomness. Instead, genetic mutations are caused by interactions between the elements which, according to Sourrys' theory, have great elemental purposes. Thus, evolution may ultimately be purposeful, ordered, and meaningful. And thus, even if some of the evolutions are random, the process where evolution takes place is teleological. Sourrys' theory also points to a multi-dimensional view of evolution, as everything is connected. This view of evolution can possibly be shown to be more efficient than currently understood, with the aid of interconnected elements and systems and levels, all helping and interacting towards each evolution. It also has a great impact on physics. Sourrys' theory points to the phenomena such as physical laws being created purely through the interaction between the elements, and it goes further than this. Currently, there is great inquiry into how the classical and quantum world can be reconciled when considering the laws of physics. Sourrys' theory proposes some possibilities which may impact on these efforts. It points to the possibility that the laws of quantum and classical physics are simply rules of different levels, and as different levels sometimes inherently have different rules, we may not be able to reconcile the two. Instead, physical laws should be thought of as distinctly pertaining to interactions on certain levels and thus not necessarily universally true. This change in thought may greatly affect the way we currently view physics. Secondly, there is a possibility that our discovery of physical laws may be limited at present due to evolutionary design parameters. For example, we are not evolutionarily designed to see the quantum world naturally, so maybe even with the use of current technological instruments, we are still missing the ability to see certain aspects of these quantum levels. Thirdly, there is a possibility that viewing the quantum world under current means is viewing the parts, not the whole. Therefore, much of the quantum world seems to be chaotic in parts purely as we are not perceiving the bigger picture. Just like the cells that create our hands may seem to be living a life of chaos until you perceive the product of their struggles, for example our hand, the subatomic world may also seem like chaos until the products of their world, for example the atoms, are viewed. Any of the above or all of the above could be correct. Religion. There is great debate over which is the greater authority in the search for truth, science or religion. Sourrys' theory does not compete with either science or religion, but instead can reconcile the two. It complements views of our many of the world's religions. It points to the possibility that there could be, as many religions believe, a greater elemental purpose to everything. It also points to the power and importance of every individual element and the possibility that there are eternal properties and elements which exist in the time between time, which is a concept which is out of scope for this video, but you can read more about it in this theory. Sourrys' theory recognizes each element as possibly being part of an overall system which is composed of all these systems, the first and the last from the alpha to the omega, and denoted as a God level. There is also the concept of a greater good which is in line with the desires of the God level. Therefore, in religious terms, there is the possibility of God being the alpha to the omega, the first and the last, that we are made in the image of God, we are all significant, and the greatest role of an individual element, such as man, is to do the greater good by doing the will of God. We can communicate with God through the interconnectedness of all things, and thus God can guide us. It is also possible that the God level could be eternal, existing in the time between time, and it could be the order which exists when seeing everything in its completeness, not just the parts. I don't want to get too complicated here, so we won't get too deeply into it right now. Sourrys' theory also complements science, as it is scientifically sound in its fundamentals and gives insights into scientific disciplines. It also reconciles differences between science and religion. For example, it points towards evolution as possibly being a part of the great elemental purpose, offering a possible new way of viewing evolution so that it is even more meaningful and purposeful. Thus forging a middle ground which is both favourable to certain religious and scientific views. There are many other disciplines where Sourrys' theory has a great impact on. Psychology. It explains how conscious and subconscious desires are created and their purpose. The nature of both synchronicity and the flow state. It also has a great impact on the personal development field. Philosophy again. It explains whether there is free will. It also introduces a concept known as the time between time and helps the debate of whether there is truly chaos or order. And much, much more. After all, it is a theory of everything. If you wish to learn more, you can download this theory in its entirety by clicking the link on the screen. This was only a very brief introduction. There is a lot more to learn. If you found this video of some value, please share it so that others may also receive this value. And finally, if you'd like to find the creator of this theory, myself, George Sourrys, please follow the links below.